Oh, there it is. Okie dokie. Okay. Okay. Mr. Miller, can you say something from the talks? We want to make sure it's recording.
Hello, hello, hello. Can you hear me?
Can one of you talk into the microphone? Test it.
Testing, testing, testing.
Testing.
Yeah, they did. Okay. Can you test yours, Mr. Johnson? Okay. All right, it's working. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. So we're streaming. Okay. All right, thank you. I appreciate it. Okay, we're ready. We're good.
We're good. Okay. Town of Pembroke Park Planning and Zoning Board meeting Thursday, June 11th, 2020, 5 p.m. Council chambers. Roll call.
Mr. Janser?
Here.
Tamara Bendali? Mr. Roach?
Yes.
Mr. Nally?
Yes.
Okay, if everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty. Okay, do we have any additions, deletions, or withdrawals to the agenda? Not at this time. Public comments related to the agenda items, good and welfare? Public comments? Like to speak up at the moment? Guess not. Okay, new business, 6.1, discussion site development plan application and discussion parking reduction application. Mr. Miller.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. Michael Miller, town planner. Nice to see everybody again. I'll try to speak as best as I can with the muzzle. We have one site plan for you, site development plan for you this evening, and a related parking reduction request, which we've been getting fairly regularly on the big box industrial buildings. So this is the, I guess I'll call it the last piece, if you will, in the Seneca Industrial Park area for new development. As you know, there was a very large lake called Meakin's Lake. It was a rock pit operation for decades, and they've been filling it in over the years. And the Seneca Industrial Park was the first area. They filled the eastern end of the lake first and built the Seneca Industrial Park, which is over this way. And the lake almost came up to Hollandale Beach Boulevard, which is on the south over here. Then they've continued to, they came and worked with the town to reshape what is today Meakin's Lake, which is a 22-acre, I believe it is, rectangular north-south lake, and the Seneca Commerce Center was approved a couple years ago on the west side of the lake that goes over to 40th Avenue. They built the first building here to the north of it, just to get you orientated. That's north, that's south. This is Channel 10's antennas here. This is the West Wind Contracting Office. This is 38th Avenue. So West Park is here. This is our city limits in this area. So the Seneca Commerce Center had 3 buildings originally. They've completed the first building. I don't know if you've been in there. That's a really nice looking complex. And they've filled in the lake up towards Coca-Cola Drive. They've got permits in right now for buildings 2 and 3 that will be orientated east-west. The building 4 came in kind of in the middle of that, which is just to the north of the Channel 10 complex here. And they finished this last year, and they're beginning occupancy in here, and they're building out the tenant spaces. So, and then Channel 10's along the frontage there. So this is the last like real piece, if you will. There's a little piece still left in Seneca up at the north end, Seneca Industrial Park. But this piece is a couple acres in size, not a big piece. The Seneca Boulevard has been built, comes north, kind of curves around the building, and then goes up along the edge of the lake here. This is, you know, not a big piece of land. So we worked with the architect when he laid out the building. Because we have single family back here, they cannot have access out onto this road because you wouldn't want trucks going out near a residential area. So our codes, and pretty much all codes, require that you do not put in driveways and that you put in a buffer, if you will. When the main part of the Seneca Commerce Center was built, they built a buffer wall along 38th, 25th Street and up 40th Avenue. And it has landscaping on the outside, trees and shrubs. So we asked them to match the same design as that so it wouldn't look like a separate building, if you will. So the design of their proposed wall will connect to the one that's built for the Seneca Commerce Center already. Quite tall, go all the way down here to the corner. This is a commercial piece down here that might stay that way, might get redevelopment in the future. On the outside will be some trees and shrubs to match what they did here. The small parking lot in the front here, and again, not a very big building because the size of the property is not like these big monsters back here. So the building is 28,500 square feet plus or minus, one story, but tall, so they could get the racks in there and so forth. And I mentioned our parking code. In the early years, there was no parking code, and we had a lot of mom and pop industrial businesses along Park Road over towards 95. And many of the sites had no parking or very little parking. And the town reacted like many cities did when growth started to occur more frequently, and adopted some regulations for parking. The current code is one space for every 600 square feet, which is fairly normal for that kind of small mom and pop place. When we get into the big box things, which are mostly dead storage or manufacturing, distribution, or they're making things, you don't really want to. You want to have sufficient parking. Parking codes are meant to provide sufficient parking, but like not over parking. Now we've granted relief to the Seneca Industrial Park, the Commerce Center already, although it's not fully occupied yet. But even with the relief, you can go into the Seneca Industrial Park and see lots of empty parking spaces all the time. And there's lots of different kinds of uses in there, from window manufacturers to you know, Home Depot had their distribution center in there for a while. Food for the poor is in there. There's a bunch of stuff in there. So we've kind of, you know, worked with the industry. We look at what the professional engineering journals say, and that's what we've kind of used as a guideline for the other buildings we've approved in this area. So what they're asking for is a similar ratio, which is about one space for every 1,000 square feet of area instead of 1 to 600. And in that case, instead of 54 parking spaces, there will be 38 here, which still should be plenty for a 28,000 square foot building. Even over time, as tenants change, because this building will be here for hundreds of years, probably. So the, you know, tenants change so a long time. So you want to provide enough parking for flexibility as times change, uses change, type of thing. So the as to the site plan, again, this went to the DRC. All the technical review staff looked at it, provided comments. There was some tweaking going on with the design, and it currently meets all the criteria that the fire department and the building official in our office asked them to do. The only off-site infrastructure change that I'll point out to you, when they originally built this road, in industrial areas, you want the road to be a little bit wider because you have the tractor trailers. So in a residential setting like this, the recommended standard is 50 feet of right-of-way and about 24 feet of asphalt in the middle. For a industrial use, the recommended standard is 60 feet of right-of-way and about 30 feet of asphalt, so a little bit more so the trucks can turn. When they first laid this out and built this, see how this gets a little skinny right here? So we asked them to lay a template on that and make sure that the trucks, would not swerve into the other lane as they came around the corner here. And as it turns out, they will be adding a little bit of asphalt here and bump it out so that as the vehicles come around, that if they were opposing each other, they wouldn't be having to do some crazy maneuver. So this will be a little fix here, but everything else is centered here. The landscaping will match what's in the other parks. And as to the architecture, Adam always does a good job. I beat him up a little bit, but he does a good job, right, Adam? And our code requires that you do some architecture and add some little pizzazz to it rather than just a plain box. We have plenty of those. So he's added some panels and protrusions, so you get some shadow in and out. You get some things going on up and down. Some eyebrows here for some shade over the windows for energy. It does have a flat roof. There's a raised parapet, so all the machinery on top, the air conditioning is screened up there.
Yeah.
So pretty nice. Will fit into the neighborhood, if you will. So that's pretty much the presentation that I have. The architect is here. The landowner is here. If you have any questions, I don't know if Adam wants to add anything. But that's my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Well, first I'd like to say wonderful job again, as always, Mr. Miller.
Oh, thank you.
And when I was going through, I only had one question, and naturally, by the time I got through reading through all the reports, the question was answered. So, and it was about the parking spaces. But excellent job, and I give credit also to the owners because they've done their work also, and so I don't see any problems at all. Does anybody have any questions?
Seneca's been a great boom to the town, and it's another example of it. Dimensional features on the building.
Yeah, I think, especially now, this was coming through the system, if you will, normally, and then nobody knew in March of this year what would happen with we're all wearing masks now, and things kind of slowed down and shook the economy and so forth. So I think this shows, the reputation that the town has for, the employment center that we have here. There's really nothing quite like what we have developed. You have over 5 million square feet of industrial employment center space, as well as the commercial stuff along the roads. But there's really nothing like this in South Florida. We're right on the edge between Broward, in Broward, but on the Dade border, on 95, rail, and so forth. So it leads to, a good location. We say in real estate, location. So, when I first got here, there were people looking to put a crane storage yard and some other junk, which is no tax base. So here we've got, all this real estate sitting here now, producing building permit revenue, real estate revenue, continuing to support the operation of the town long term. So this is good stuff. And the industrial stuff, really for a city government, there is very little service involved with that. Residential, usually parks, schools, lots of water, sewer. But when you get the industrial thing, people come to work every day, usually go home. There might be a night shift, but this is good, clean industrial, not heavy industrial, dirty or anything like that. So good stuff.
Well, do we have any other questions? I see no problem. We'll go ahead and take a vote and make a recommendation.
I think you need to make on each petition, one on the site plan, then one separately on the parking reduction.
Okay, so we'll do site development plan application first. Do I have a proposal?
forward to the town to accept it.
Second?
Subject to
Second.
subject to staff comments, please.
Staff comments.
Thank you.
So I'm sorry, who motioned it?
I did.
Okay, and seconded by?
I second
From O'Malley?
I'm sorry, these masks, you can't really see.
it. I know, we're all jammed up.
Okay, so the motion was made by Mr. Janza, seconded by Mr. Malley. Mr. Janza?
Yes.
Ms. Benedi? Yes. Mr. Roach?
Yes.
Mr. Malley?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. Next, for the parking reduction application, do I have a motion?
Not me.
Go ahead, Tamar, say something.
I approve parking reduction application proposed, Lincoln and Industrial Building number 5.
Good, that's good. Second down there.
Second? Okay. Motion made by Ms. Benedi, seconded by Mr. Janza. Ms. Benedi? Mr. Janza?
Yes.
Mr. Roach?
Yes.
Mr. Malley?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, any comments? Public or from anybody?
Got a little bit of just input to see where you all are going to be kind of in the next few weeks. We have one more site plan just running right behind this that's coming forward. It's a O'Reilly Auto Parts store. It's going to be next to the Dollar General right here at 48th. They've been in the system. We had them scheduled for a DRC back in March. 2 days after, after the town declared and the governor declared that we're canceling all meetings 2 days before the DRC meeting, so we could not meet. And there's been a couple revisions in the declarations from the governor of the county and the town. Last night they kind of opened the door again, so that's why we're meeting here. And we've scheduled the DRC that was postponed next week, and I would like to get them before you in late June for if you're going to be around for a meeting. Should be fairly straightforward. Again, the town could use the revenues as we get them so they can move forward, do their construction plans, get them in for permits. And then there's one more coming, but it's running behind, so a couple months behind the other one. We got to deal with the commission. They've decided to take July and August off, which kind of hurts the developers coming
We've had 3
through.
months off already. What do they?
So we're going to have to get a special meeting. I know they're talking about some other business too, but we'll deal with that. But I'd like to get at least the DRC and your review out of the way.
I think that can be worked out.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then one last update. I think you remember, some of you, that we did a major overhaul of your comprehensive plan, and you're the planning board, in 16 and 17. And we concluded that by updating everything. The state approved it, and then we did a small one with agricultural in 19, which was also on the books. Comprehensive plans have to be reviewed every 7 years under the current state schedule, if you will. So the next deadline, if you will, is August 1st of this year. So we used to do what's called an evaluation and appraisal report, or EAR. I used to call them FEARs because they were every 5 years, FEAR. But it was almost like writing a separate comprehensive plan for your comprehensive plan. And you would look at how many cars were driving down the road, how many more houses were built, if there was any blight that you want to fix, and it was an opportunity to amend your comprehensive plan to, it's your policy glide, if you will. So since we did all that work and the deadline is coming up, I did not feel that the town was in a position where we needed to do any of that. So I brought it before the commission last night, and they agreed that we're not going to proceed with a formal EAR or any updates, major updates, because since we just did it. If there is a cause that you or the commission has, we can do that as an individual amendment, not as a required every 7-year amendment, if you will. So I just wanted to keep you abreast of what's going on we have the current planning, and then we have long-range planning. So, that's the other piece of the puzzle. So that's it.
Meeting adjourned at 5:27.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.